Hi, everyone. I actually have a podcast to do in a few minutes. And so I wanted to come to you because I wanted to talk to you about the George Foreman movie that clearly nobody's going to watch. Came out at a bad time because um because came out what a week before Guardians of the Galaxy. So it's a and then it's and then in another 2 weeks it's going to be Fast and Furious, and in another week it's going to be some Little Mermaid. So nobody's watching this movie, but I have a lot of thoughts about it, so I wanted to share what I thought about it. Let me first preface this by saying that I think that George Foreman should have a movie. And I think that George Foreman is extremely overlooked. He gets more recognition in today's atmosphere for his business acumen and his jovial personality. And he did a long contract with HBO Sports for boxing. And so a lot of people completely overlook him and his contribution to boxing because of his because what people are most likely to associate him with. So, and that's unfortunate. But there's reasons for this. Um, so I think that him having a movie is long overdue because he does have his own story to tell. But I also am I the things okay. My I grew up on boxing. My family was huge on boxing, but I must admit that I'm not into boxing at this second in my life. And it's not because I don't like boxing. It's because I think what's missing is the entertainment factor of it. Like it's interesting, right? So the people in the field aren't interesting. And it doesn't really and there's some aspects of it where I really enjoyed Sylvester Stallone had a show that I really, really enjoyed. Like I think that there are moments where you could have invigorated the sport. It just didn't work. That's not what we're here for. But I'm gonna say that George Foreman in my life, I was more familiar with his second round of coming into being a heavyweight champion in my life because that's the age that I was growing up in. And actually even his last fight that he lost, I fundamentally was like he was robbed. And I think a lot of the time is that they wanted to kind of move away from George Foreman. And in order to kind of move away from George Foreman, you you made you they decided against him. It was a split decision. Um, he he's not a guy that went out of the field because he lost it. That's not George Foreman's story at all. Even when he was 45, 46, still boxing, he still could box and he could do so well. What made George Foreman set him apart from a lot of other people is he can hit hard. And he could hit hard when he was young, but he hit and he could hit even like he was naturally strong. And the way that he trained when he was in his older years was like this farm setting. And that was even featured on HBO Sports before. And he was absolutely a hard hitting person. He was never a person who shuffled around. So he was like um he never shuffled around. He was definitely not the dude who would move around, but he could get you with one punch, and all he had to do was with that one punch, and he would knock the bricks off you, right? With that being said, I think that this George Foreman movie was okay. And so let me say the positives. The positives I thought was the casting. I think the casting did a great job in in kind of depicting the essence of the characters. I think that was really good. I think that Forrest Whitaker completely stole the show. There was a scene where he's quitting, where George Foreman was quitting boxing to become a minister. And that whole scene with Forrest Whitaker with the single tear falling down, I was like, great job. Forrest Whitaker did a wonderful job in this. Okay. Um, the problem I have is the exact problem that is the reason why my son was in the theater and he was like, so wait, who is this? And the reason, and I actually preface this, I actually went to college with Georgetta. Um, she was graduating my senior year, my freshman year. And then I went to college with his son, I think his youngest son, George. I think it's his youngest son. Um, and he was a year younger than me. No, I need you to clean. I don't want your money. I'm sorry, y'all. My kids need to clean. Um, I've been begging them to clean this one area for like days. And they want to give me some money because we had a yard sale today. And I actually made $160 in the yard sale. And so she wanted to buy something back from me and that I was selling. And it was actually one of her things that I was selling and she wanted to buy it from me. And I'm like, I don't want you to buy it. I want you to clean. Anyway, sorry. Where was I? George Foreman. Okay. So my son's like, so wait, is he Muhammad Ali? I'm like, no, this is not about Muhammad Ali. This is about George Foreman. And then he keeps naming different boxers. And I was just like, no, because there's been a number of different films on Muhammad Ali. I hate to tell you, I know that I am in the minor opinion here. I didn't like the Ali Will Smith movie. I thought Will Smith did a decent job playing Ali. And Jamie Foxx did steal the show. But as a performance, like the whole movie altogether, yeah. And so I do think that the George Foreman movie was even better than that movie, right? In some aspects. But the problem is that, and by the way, Wendy Williams is part of this, which I thought was kind of interesting, which is kind of cool. The problem that I have with this film is the problem that is the reason why a lot of people, especially younger generations, they know the Mike Tyson, they know the Muhammad Ali, they even know, which I think that they should do a Holyfield movie. Because I think I'm not a big fan of Holyfield, but I think a Holyfield movie should be done. I even think a Roy Jones movie should be done. Like Roy Jones is a fantastic person to do a movie on because he's a fantastic character in boxing. I mean, just magnetic. Love his commentary. Anyway, I think we need a Roy Jones. I think it's Roy Jones Jr. We had a Roy Jones Jr. Like he was the first Michael Jordan backed boxer. He was Michael, not Jackson, I'm sorry, Michael Jordan backed boxer. He changed and he changed his weight size to go into different I digress. Anyway, point is one of the problems with the George Foreman person, because he's not the only one who is extremely Christian. Holyfield was extremely Christian. The issue is that George Foreman multiple times found himself on the wrong side of history. And I and and there are moments in this film that they do kind of touch upon it. They touch upon him him being in the Mexico Olympics. And the problem that I have with the film is that they don't provide enough context. You need context. The context is that George Foreman was able to kind of rise because there was no Ali in the same sense. Ali ended up having to give up his weight, his belt, because he refused to go fight in the Vietnam War. That's a fact. Like, I mean, I know this is not about all of these other people, but you don't ever see the first Ali fight in which he wins, in which that set them up to the Rumble in the Jungle. And I found it very strange that they don't even name it the Rumble in the Jungle. Found it very strange that Don King is in the movie, but he's in the background. He has no lines. I found that to be an interesting choice to just label it George Foreman versus Muhammad Ali instead of even the label of Rumble in the Jungle. It's not even addressing that there was a whole event. There was a concert before it. There was that got into George Foreman's head, not just the chanting, but the theatric of the whole build up to it. The fact that they even ignored, like I said, the context of the Black Power movement that was taking place, so that you can, even if it was just a few scenes of the Black Power movement, not just showing him a paper, to me, it makes absolutely no sense that this man is going to be not in Southern California, in Northern California, and to not have any concept that the Black Power movement, that these Black men, one of which that's on the Olympics team, was in San Jose, going to San Jose State, and that you're not going to say, granted, he could ignore a lot of that, but it was the hugest talk of town. And not just talk of town, but it was the talk amongst all Black athletes. George Foreman, if you ever want, you should go watch the Mexico, which I do show in my class, the Mexico Olympics NBC documentary, Mexico City documentary. Yeah. It's NBC Sports. And Foreman gives an interview because they were having meetings about should we participate in the Olympics, Black people. They were treating this just like they were doing with Jesse Owens. Like it's if you're going to tell the Jesse Owens story, you have to have a conversation where they come and talk to you about should you participate. And the thing is that there's no rhyme or reason as to how you were going to say that you didn't know that flying the flag, like in the movie, saying when he comes home that he then discovers that flying the flag was a controversial thing. That is bogus. That is not true, because we watched, even in his own words of the documentary, that he made a cognitive choice to fly the flag, he did so in real time. After there was discussion with him about if we should participate, after he kind of was like, I don't want to be political, I just want to be here to fight. That was his kind of choice. So he just, if we want to say that he didn't expect his friends or, people in the fellow community, especially in Oakland, to feel away, okay, that I can accept. But to realize that you were going to be not as accepted in the Black community as much as you were then accepted in the white community, you've lost me. And this is the thing about George Foreman, is that if you talk to Black folks, they would not, George Foreman will receive his due where people acknowledge that he is a good boxer, but they do not respect him in the same, and it's unfortunate because they're not being honest with themselves, as the Muhammad Ali's, the Joe Fraziers, and to be perfectly honest, Foreman should be even higher than some of these folks, because he not only fought them, some of them he won, some of them he lost, but he also left and came back and fought some of the top within the more current days. Did he fight Tyson? No, I don't recall. But he did fight at the top he did fight the Holyfield. He did fight amongst these individuals in 10-year span, and a lot can happen in boxing in 10 years. This is not a longevity sport. I just want you to know. So I feel that he won heavyweight in bones, right? So I think that it's unfortunate, but the reason why George Foreman doesn't get his props is because when people look toward, and unfortunately we look towards our sports leaders, sports athletes, we look towards entertainers for their political stance and how Black folks support. So we've been able to excuse a lot of what Muhammad Ali has done because of his political stance. And in longevity, we have a forgetful memory of some of the things that he has done. And we acknowledge and accept him for the things that he has done and taking these kind of stands that other people did not. And George Foreman, unfortunately, because of the way he comes off to people, because he has this apolitical, not really willing to take a stance on anything, and he seems to be a bit more on the patriotic side without calling out the ills of what's happening in America. Because of those two things, which it has unfortunately made him more difficult to accept within the Black community. And he's also what we would call the accepted Black man, to have these rather large endorsement deals like the George Foreman Grill, which I don't know if I have one, but I know for sure that I've had a couple of them in my lifetime. Great, cooks a great hamburger, makes a great chicken, roasted chicken. I mean, hey, I didn't figure out, do I have one still? I know I had one for the longest, and you can warm up your buns, and you can, I mean, yes, right. he's been able to, because he also um he has an infectious smile, right? So even if he's being insulted, he doesn't seem to come off as someone who will be quick tempered like a Tyson. And he hasn't had large scandals. I know that he right now is in the middle of a scandal of somebody saying that he slept with somebody, uh, what, 40 years ago? Yeah, 40 years ago, and she was a minor. Well, was she a minor? I think there's an accusation of rape that's taking place. And it's like, woman? And the reason why that doesn't resonate with a lot of people is, again, because of his personality. Now, so for me, for the movie, I struggled with the first part of this movie because some of the things that I thought that should be included was absolutely not included in this movie. The movie lacks context. And but on the flip side, I thought that the reason why a lot of this is, and the elephant is in the room, is that he is one of the most commercialized, socially accepted Black male athletes, right? Who came out of boxing, um, who has never been able to, that no one has shied away from. He was the antithesis of the Alis and the Tysons because he's not going to give you any problems. He's just a good guy. And I'm not saying that that's a negative at all, but I'm just saying that he's not going to talk smack. He's not going to do any of that. And so therefore, Ali has, made some comments, either in jest or whatever, about how people feel about Foreman. And as much as it's offensive and it may hurt Foreman's feelings, but this is the reason why we know Ali and most people don't know Foreman who are young. Um, so I think that the movie, if you're going into this trying to be like, okay, so you're going to give more of a fair analysis, I'm gonna let you know that's not going to happen. But what is going to happen is that it's supposedly here to see the evolution of a man. And that's what you're seeing, is the evolution of a man. A man. And so that ends up becoming um, much more front and center than anything else. And that may not be what you anticipate or expect. Um, so um, that may not be what you anticipate or expect. So therefore, it may not, it's not, like I said, it's not a bad movie. It's a 2-hour movie. George Foreman absolutely should be given his just due. And I thought that it wasn't a bad movie. It had some glaring flaws for you to try to understand. I think that you should understand more about him, but he's clearly highlighting the moments that have shaped him as a person, and maybe not him as a boxer. That's the best way to put it. So this is not about George Foreman, the boxer. This is about George Foreman, the man. With that being said, I do think we should go support them. Go support the movie because it's George Foreman. He does need the support. I don't think that he gets our support in the way that he should. Have a good rest of your day.